This is my culture, got taught or told that it was outside of us, that God and the Creator were outside of us, and that if we didn't do A, B, or C, then 1, 2, 3 was going to happen to us. So we are on a planet of free will, and the angels will not interfere, nor will they come in and offer assistance unless asked. Are we still going to continue doing this? Not taking care of our most precious wisdom, wise elders on earth? Are we going to still put them away in homes and put them in tiny little rooms and just let them sit there? To me, that was why death came so rapidly.
Welcome to the Seed Podcast. My name is Rowena Suarez. I am your host, and I am bringing you conversations and stories about initiatives, projects, and advocacies that are giving birth to a new world. A better world, you can say. Yes, the world as we know it is crumbling and in disarray, but there is also a new world that is being born. I believe that there is hope, and that in each one of us is a seed that has been planted for us to grow and nurture. We are the seeds that have been planted to transform the world. My guest for today is Lisa Clayton. She is the founder of Source Potential Inc., a human evolution company. Lisa is a successful business entrepreneur, author, and intuitive spiritual leader who offers more than 35 years of experience in professional consulting, keynote speaking, and transformational coaching. With Lisa's lifelong teaching and coaching philosophy of learning from the inside out, she has creatively combined her intuitive abilities with heart conscious methods to establish the inner leader movement, focusing on individuals' unique spiritual gifts and life mission for moving forward with changes necessary for New Earth living. As an ordained angel ambassador, Lisa specializes in connecting individuals with their source self and divine by conducting multidimensional intuitive transmission sessions. From her passion for heart focused living, Lisa is a heart math master trainer and a licensed coach teaching individuals and groups stress reduction resilience techniques for creating coherent, compassionate living environments. Lisa is also a contributing author to inspirational books like 365 Days of Angel Prayers, the 111 Morning Meditations, and the 52 Weeks of Gratitude Journal and Heaven Sent. So I met Lisa when I had my heart math certification training in the US back in 2017. She was one of the master trainers who was assigned in the group that I was in. And the first time I met her, I already knew that we have a special connection. And she's one of those people who, when you meet the first time, you really feel the vibrant energy, such an uplifting energy. She doesn't know this, but for the first 2 years, since I started facilitating heart math workshops, I would always go back to this sheet of paper, this evaluation sheet that she wrote at the end of the class. And each and every time when I feel like I'm nervous or I'm quite worried whether I would be able to do a great job facilitating, I would always go back and read what she wrote. She has a way of saying things that really touches the heart, that really touches the soul. And that's one reason why I'm very excited that she is here with us and that you will be able to listen to her and that you will be able to hear from her definitely nuggets of wisdom. And for the past 2 years, I also had to seek the guidance of Lisa. I had been through some difficult times, and there were times when I felt like even if I do have my personal mastery practice, my spiritual practice, it felt like I needed some guidance, and it was Lisa who I turned to. It really helped me trust. It helped me believe that I had everything that I needed and that everything that I needed will be provided. And so, Yeah, so here I am, and here is Lisa with us. Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you are so welcome, Wang. It's an honor and privilege to be asked to be part of your amazing podcast. Love it.
So, Lisa, when I was thinking about what to talk about in this episode, I remembered or recalled rather one of the stories that you mentioned in a live Facebook video a couple of years ago. And you were sharing about how intuition can guide us and how intuition can nudge us or send a message on things that are important or relevant to us. And I believe that was the night before 9/11. Can you share with us what happened?
Yes, I have a very highly developed sense of non local intuition. And what that means is that when you are emotionally when your emotions are attached to something, it could be your child, it could be a person, it could be a place. When your heart is emotionally attached to that, the heart actually sends a signal of future events that could happen, that will happen actually. So the heart is this magnificent instrument that we have to work with at many different levels. And so my non-local intuition has been very developed. So my heart picks up and senses these things before they happen. And so I was emotionally attached to the World Trade Center
Mm,
because I was working for American Express at the time as a consultant for them, and American Express's building is directly across from the World Trade Center. We were attached by a bridge over VC Street. So the night before, I was to get on a plane to travel to not New York but to Chicago for an American Express assignment. My heart just started beating really fast, and I got these cold sweats, and I didn't know what was going on, but something told me not to get on that plane.
mm,
And so, of course, then we know what unfolded. But the interesting thing was that in the morning of 9/11, I woke up and I was in this cold sweat again, and my heart was beating really, really super fast. And I said to my partner at the time, I said, it feels like someone's dying, and I don't know who it is, but I'm so glad I'm not getting on that plane. So it's those signals that your heart picks up, and is able to give you that indication that it will guide you into the decisions that you need to make.
is that something that has always happened to you in the past since you were young, or did it start at a certain point in your life?
Yeah, since I was a little girl, I could
Mm,
sense things, and so that's a really good question, Lynn, because yes, I started being able to pick up those signals. I would know. I grew up on a farm in Ohio, and I would know when a cow was in danger,
mm.
or I was very connected to the animals. So I had these predictions. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would say, the pig is having babies, and if we don't get her separated, she's going to kill them. Like things like that. And I would go wake my mom and dad up, and it really freaked them out. So they basically asked me to stop doing it, and
Mm.
so I did. I hid that beautiful developed non-local intuition for many years, as a child and teenager. And then when I got into college, I started to be able to experiment with it a little bit more. And then I just didn't hide it anymore because it was a very useful guide for me in certain life situations. Yeah.
Mm. How do different people experience this, Lisa? I mean, what are the other ways in which people experience or connect with their intuition?
Yeah, I always say it's that I don't think there's anyone on this earth that doesn't get some kind of feeling inside. We call it that gut feeling.
Mm,
Like it could be as simple as driving your car, and you're like, should I take a right or should I take a left? And all of a sudden you get this really feeling like, no, I'm going to go left. So it can be something as simple as that nudge, that heart's intuitive intelligence coming through to guide you. I know we're going to talk about angels in a minute. I always talk about the guardian angels too as an assistant in the heart. So it can also be energetic. Okay, you can have an energetic sensitivity as simple as just being in public transportation or in a coffee shop and you feel like somebody's staring at you. Okay, and you turn around and that person's staring at you. So there's different types of intuition that we all have. But the main thing to remember is that we all have intuition. And the different types of intuition are developed over time based on our life experiences. So that's the good news. And people, when I'm in my coaching sessions, and people are like, "Oh, I'm not as intuitive as you are." Well, that's because I've been practicing I've been using my intuition as a tool, a life tool, for many, many years now. You just haven't activated it yet. You can do the same thing I do once you start practicing and really tuning in to those gut feelings, those
Mm.
those nudges, those signs, the messages, the signals. So the intuition is very highly evolved in all of us. Yeah.
Mm. But not every one of us has been listening to it or has really been tapping into it. So when you don't use it, you lose it. Is it something like that? Or
Well, it like I say, it never goes away because
yeah.
it's part of our operating system.
Mm.
Okay, our nervous system has a very complex system, but the heart has an intuitive intelligence to it, and the mind has an intuitive ability to it.
Mm.
And when those two start working together, that's when the intuition really starts to expand. So it's part of our nervous system. Instinctually, it protects us. Okay, so we know when danger comes, that instinct taps into our intuition and says, run, you know, run, what is it, fight, flight, or freeze?
Hmm.
Okay, that's that instinctual part of the nervous system that protects us. The instinct and the intuition are very tied together and they work together when we are in danger, okay, or when we have to make a quick decision. So it's part of our operating system, our nervous system, our intelligent operating system of the brain, and the heart working together.
Mm.
Yeah.
I remember that time when I sought for your guidance. Of course, I have a heart math practice, and we know that there is heart math practice specific to tapping into intuition. But I felt like there was something else that needed to be uncovered, that needed to be revealed, that I couldn't see, that I couldn't tap into at the time. And what we did was an angel intuitive reading. What happens in the process? What is it
Yeah.
that we're really tapping into, and how does that happen?
Well, our souls are eternal. So our souls, when we leave this human body, we go into light. And the angels are part of the light being dimensions that some of them reincarnate, some of them don't. Some of them never reincarnate. They have this dimensional frequency that we can tap into. And the same with the ascended masters, with our ancestors, and with our
Mm.
family who has passed into light. They're these light beings. They're just in a different dimension. We're in a third dimensional matrix here on Earth. And so the more that we travel through those higher dimensions, the more that we can get connected to those, what I love to call resources above. And a lot of times those resources above got tainted or conditioned by some of our culture, our religion, the belief systems that we carried forth with us. So we only believed certain things that we were told or taught. But
Mm.
there's a whole wide range of possibilities in the light dimensions. And angels are just one aspect of that dimensional, the multidimensional frequencies. They're just a frequency, they're a vibration, they're energy. And I've never seen angels as human beings with wings because they're
Mm.
not in third dimension. Okay. So I've always sensed them as orbs of light. And I've seen orbs of light. And when I was a little girl, I first had my first connection with the angels when I had this feeling inside of me that I didn't belong. I was the oldest of four, and my parents were very strict, and they were telling me all of these things and saying things about other people that I didn't understand. Just because that person's a different religion, I can't like them or be around them. And that person's a different color of skin, and I'm supposed to stay away from them. So I was very confused because children are pure essence of their
Mm.
soul. And so I went out to get the cows for milking, and I laid down and I just said, I don't understand all of this, but I'm ready to go back because I think I made a mistake coming here because this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And I closed my eyes and I thought, well, I'll just pray because I know I've been taught how to pray. And I put my hands over my heart. And when I looked up, this is a clear blue sky, there was a beautiful angel cloud shaped with wings and like a heart in the middle. And I was just like, oh my gosh. It really it startled me. I remember I was 6 years old. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, I just felt so protected and so guided. And I don't remember the message that came through, but I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my heart. And that's when I knew that there was a higher power. There was a lot more resources. That if I just put my hands over my heart, that's all I did when I was 6 years old, laying down in that cow pasture saying, I'm ready to go. I can't do this. And when that's where the angels connect with you. Angels are activated by your heart and
Mm.
by your heart's vibration. And so when I saw that angel cloud, the message that I remember was that you're right where you're supposed to be, and we will never leave you. We will be right by your side. Just keep connecting with us and asking us and believing in us. That was a big one for me because it wasn't in my belief system that I was being told or taught that angels were a resource. They were just these figures that I was taught that God sent to us to do to do certain things, but that we weren't to pray to them or be connected to them. I had a whole different experience that got me connected to the angels in a different way.
A lot of things came to me as you said that. One is when you mentioned the word resource. Um, I didn't read it like resource, resource, but as resource. So the
Mhm.
way I received that is that the angels, when we experience them, is a way for us to go back to the source.
Yes, yes. They're really the gatekeepers. I always like to say that angels are the gatekeepers to the higher dimensional, to source. I mean, they are constantly reminding us that we have this source within us
Mm.
and that we can connect at any different level. And we just don't get taught or told that. We get taught, at least I did. This is my culture. Got taught or told that it was outside of us, that
Mm.
God and the Creator were outside of us, and that if we didn't do A, B, or C, then one, two, three was going to happen to us.
Mm.
I remember when I was being taught this, I was scared to death. I was like, "Oh my gosh, if how can God be how can He punish us and be hurt us when He's love?" And that's just some of the dogma and the doctrine that religions build into their philosophies. That was just a philosophy. And so then, when I became older, I started studying all the philosophies.
Mm.
I started studying every single philosophy and religion I could get my hands on. And what I learned is that it's basically all the same. They were all talking about the same thing, this source within us that we can connect to in higher dimensional frequencies. And I was like, oh, I was really relieved because it was just the dual consciousness that we live here on third dimension that
Mm.
keeps us separated from that uniting in our efforts to realize that we're all one and we're all
Mm.
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So different people, regardless of religion, belief, or philosophy, actually experience the angels. They could be
Oh yeah.
calling it differently, right? And we might not always know it's the angels, but there are certain kinds of experiences where we are actually experiencing what you are also describing.
Yes, yes. And I always say to people that are new to connecting with their angels is that everyone has guardian angels.
Mm.
Okay, everyone has birth angels. There are angels present when you were born, and they make sure that they're the gatekeepers. They just usher us in because we were in light before, and they help us come into this human beingness. And so, like in the Kabbalah, they have 72 angels that they study, and they're very specific about which of those angels were with you when you were born, based on the time you were born and the date and all that, which is really fascinating. I learned that. I was like, wow, okay, so that really validated that religion was working with the angels in a much more expansive way than I ever knew. And then so yes, angels are always available, and there's certain ones assigned to you.
How can people be more in touch with the guidance of the angels, or how can they be more in touch with their intuitive intelligence, with their intuition?
Yes. So we are on a planet of free will, and the angels will not interfere, and nor will they come in and offer assistance unless asked. So the first thing is just to ask, connect with them. And again, they connect with the heart. They are heart light beings. So anytime you connect with your heart, like we do with our heart math techniques, with getting connected to that heart and slowly, deeply breathing into the heart, and then just asking. But you have to listen, and you have to believe in the messages that come through. So the easiest way to start connecting with them is through oracle cards. So you can get angel oracle cards and just start, holding them to your heart and just breathing in that beautiful heart energy. See which angel comes through. Listen. What is the message? That oracle cards are very simple spiritual tools that you can start using to make that connection. That's how I started. I bought a little pack I found in a thrift store. This is when I was kind of shutting out the angels in my life, when I was in the corporate arena, and
Mhm.
just said, oh, I don't, that, yeah, I'll talk to the angels when I get time. And so I bought a little pack of cards, and every time I shuffled, and I was like, now how do they know that? How do they know that this is exactly what I'm going through right now? And then I started doing it more and more, and then I'm like, okay, I'm sorry I lost my connection, because we do. We go on to other things, and yeah, our worlds change. And so yeah, that's the easiest way, is to really start using cards, or just opening up your heart and asking your guardian angels to appear. They will always come when you ask, always, 100% of the time.
So, whether that is in the form of a prayer or a meditation or a journal writing, they
Yes.
come, they arrive.
Yeah, they're just waiting to be asked. And then we have to trust our ability just to listen. And so you bring up a very good point, Wayne, because that's how I do all my work now. I connect with them, I listen, and I write, and they give me amazing, beautiful downloads. So the weekly mantras. that I do every week. That's completely downloads. Those are messages from the angels and you can do the same thing. You can just sit and listen, and they have fun with me because they know I love art. They know I love to have fun. And so they know I love poetry. So they always give me 3 lines. 3 lines. And first it started out to be haiku, and then there was more information coming through. So they're just like, and they always say to me, keep it simple. Keep it simple. But you humans make it so complicated. It's so simple if you just listen and receive the messages. So I've been operating full time now since 2016, right before I met you, in really listening and transcribing that information so that I can bring forth the guidance for other people. And that's what the inner leader movement is about, is that heart's intuitive intelligence. Because really basically what the angels said to me is that we're just going to expand your heart's intuitive intelligence
Mm.
and bring forth that information that will help earth navigate through this most chaotic time that we are witnessing right now with the pandemic and
Mm.
with systems. The old systems are breaking down and the curtains are being pulled apart behind the scenes to give us information about what's really going on. So the old systems are breaking down and the new systems are emerging, and it can be a more perfect time to get connected
What
and
has
listen to
been,
the messages.
yeah, sorry, what has been their message about what this pandemic is all about? What this is
Well,
all about? What's happening? What's going on?
I'm actually teaching that right now. On at the end of March, I received 12 what they call key codes, and they were 12 different messages of how to navigate through the pandemic. And I won't go into all 12 of those now, but here was the main one, or the main 4 out of the 12 were based on rest and retreat. Rest and retreat. Get silent. Listen. Then the next downloads after the 12 key codes, they call them the 12 key codes because they said this pandemic isn't going to go away. See, this is at the end of March last year. And they said this isn't going to go away for a long time. So you need some tools and navigation and some guidance on how to navigate through this. And they kept saying rest and retreat. Listen to what your gout. This is the age. They kept saying this is the age of intuition. This is where you harvest your soul's knowing. Your soul is eternal. It has traveled many, 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 many lifetimes. Some here on earth. Some. One of my coaches, one of my mentors, knows for a fact that she was in light form for over 14,000 years, preparing to come to earth now. And I'm like, whoa. So we don't know where but our soul holds this wisdom. It that doesn't change. And we came into the third dimensional matrix with amnesia. We don't remember anything that our soul knows. But now we have the opportunity, and that's what they kept saying. We got to get back to the source self. We got to get back to who you are. You identify what your parents told you who you were, or your teachers told you who you were. Your mind ego had this identification process, but that's not who you are. Who you are is this beautiful source light being. And that was some of the teachings that came through during the pandemic was you got to stop pushing. You got to stop going. Do, go, go, go. What you all created this system that you're living in of if we don't make money or if we don't have these degrees or if we don't do this, we're not going to be prosperous. And isn't it time to change that? Because
Mm.
is that really fun? They kept saying to me, is that really fun? Is that really inspiring to go, 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 do? So we're going to shut down the world. The world shuts down because of a pandemic or because of some other planetary thing that could happen. And it brings us back to what are we really doing here? What are we I mean, we're working so hard, and we're pushing, pushing, pushing. So rest and retreat was huge. And silence consciousness. They brought in the gift of, as you become silent, there is wisdom in silence. Is a consciousness. Activity has a consciousness. Everything has a consciousness. And so once we learn to tap into those gifts of the consciousness, that stillness, and that's why meditation, oh my gosh, look at how many meditation programs expanded during the pandemic. Everybody was getting into meditating,
Mhm.
people that never had tried it ever before. And so all that is quieting this to get connected to the heart. So the pandemic, as unfortunate and as disastrous as it has been, has has given us some gifts also to get reconnected.
Not only that more people started meditating here in the Philippines, for example, more and more people actually started going back to the land to work with the soil, to connect with nature, to plant again, to garden, to go back to farming. That's one of the shifts that we actually noticed here in the Philippines. And so I agree with you that, this is really more about changing the way we've been doing things and really reconnecting with our essence. And one of the things that also came to me, Lisa, is that their message for us, their message is not about how we battle this or how we survive this. It's really more about how we become more in tune with who we really are.
Yes, and I love what has transpired in the Philippines, because this is the message that they kept saying in the key codes. It was that you are a nature spirit. You have forgotten that you are a nature spirit. Connect with nature. Talk to the trees. I have a tree I talk to every day. Wise, wise tree. Because we have forgotten that we are a nature spirit as part of the animal plant kingdom, the beautiful Mother Gaia's offerings. And that is exactly, so many of my friends moved off the grid,
Mm,
got off, went out, and this is what's happening in the United States, is that people are moving to the country. People are buying up land, and because they're realizing that that nature part of who they are is being activated now in a different way.
mm,
Basically, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I mean, we don't take these bodies with us when we leave the earth. And so we are here to feel joy and happiness and security and satisfaction and fulfillment in these beautiful, amazing human bodies that have five senses. So I have a couple of friends who died and came back, and they have written books
mm.
about their experiences after they died. And they said, hey, when I was coming back, I couldn't wait to taste a latte, because when you go into light, you don't have these five senses: seeing, hearing, touch, smell, taste. Oh my gosh, those aren't there. Those are the things that we get distracted by, actually, but they're also beautiful gifts that we get to experience while we're here. And so when you take your five human senses and you combine them with your soul senses, you've got a beautiful life, because
Well,
you're bringing them together.
that's fascinating. So there are people who really know, who have the knowing that they have been here before and that this
Oh
is not
yeah,
their first time on earth.
yeah, yeah. I know of past lifetimes very, very clearly. In fact, the
Mm,
farm where I was born, I knew immediately when I was a little girl, because I kept finding arrowheads, and I loved the Native American culture, and that's all I did was study it. But that's because I had been there
mm,
before. So I just have really strong, because of my intuitive abilities, because I have I'm very gifted in my intuitive abilities. I can remember some of those things. My intuition gets triggered from what is it called? The implicit knowledge in intuition that we learned
Mhm.
in heart math.
Yep.
The implicit knowledge is that you have this information, you just don't know where it comes from,
Mhm.
because that's your soul knowing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Another enlightening perspective for me about what you shared about those people who have been here before is our belief about death.
Mm,
Um, and you know that that has been a major theme since last year, since the pandemic broke out. I mean, regardless of what we believe about the pandemic, whether we believe it is a real pandemic or that it's been manufactured. But one thing for sure is that this perspective, this insight that you offered, kind of changes how we see death and the
mm-hmm.
meaning of it and what is going on with the deaths that are being reported because of COVID-19. And I thank you for bringing that. What are your thoughts around why we've seen so many deaths over the past year?
Oh, wow. As far as the pandemic is concerned, is that what your question is lending to? Like, why would something like this happen to for so many people dying? Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, that's how evolution works. When we evolve, when we start to evolve as a spirit being, that death rebirth process is really important. So I'll give you the example of senior living. And when I tapped into the angels about the virus and the pandemic, and I used to work in senior living, and I would feel the heartache of those elders being put into homes. Some of them needed the assistance, many of them did not. They just weren't being taken care of by their families. And it was heartbreaking to see this. And so, as you know, the pandemic took a lot of those seniors.
Mm,
That was one of the population that went. And in my soul and in my work with the heart, it was like what was happening is that it was it was like, are we still going to continue doing this, not taking care of our most precious wisdom wise elders on earth? Are we going to still put them away in homes and put them in tiny little rooms and just let them sit there? To me, that was why death came so rapidly in those. It was partly a reminder to all of us: do are, is this industry going to continue like this? Are we going to open it up to harvest the wisdom of our elders and really respect and honor them in their last years here? So a lot of those seniors were suffering anyway, very much so, at many different levels. So it was almost, death is almost like a relief
mm,
for them. So there's not, death isn't necessarily, mass death like this isn't necessarily, um, I won't say it's bad. I mean, death is sad and its loss, and we grieve, but it sometimes is necessary to bring us back into that preciousness of life and how we are treating others in this life, together. So that's the best example I can give, that, and it doesn't mean that there's reasons why certain populations had more, or if
mm.
there was more, like in the United States, oh, were there more Republicans that died than Democrats? I mean, oh my gosh, let's not get into that.
Yeah.
This this is this is about a death rebirth process.
Very important to bring the conversation into this level, right?
Yeah.
We want to take away the polarity dimension of the conversation, and I think
Yes.
that what you're bringing up is a perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the one that struck me the most. And that's when I was asking my guides, all right, so we don't have it figured out here on Earth, and we've done some really unbelievable things to create suffering and poverty and lack. Okay, so how can we shift this now? How can we open this up? We know now the pandemic shook us to the core. It shook all of us to the core. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed for a month because I was just like, okay. Well, I was sick too. I became very ill during that time, which I probably had COVID, but no one knew enough about it
Mm.
to there weren't testing, there wasn't anything then. So that was an interesting example, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but I I got really, really ill, and I was looking at death. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean, I have no, I'm at peace with myself, and I'm in alignment with my guides. And so, and they're like, no, you're not ready yet. But what we want to teach you is that you have the healing power inside of you to get well.
Mm.
You have the healing power. So I was taught during this time of illness of March 2020 that I could tap into this higher dimensional frequency that would and with my heart and with my source self to heal myself, that I had my own healing powers. And I'm like, well, I know that. And they're like, no, you don't use it. You don't use it. You need to practice it now. This is serious. You need to get, because you have a mission here. You have a lot that you're going to be one of the leaders on the front line when people on this awakening. And I'm like, okay, well, and then I worked with it for all that night. And I just prayed that, and people say, how did you do it? I don't know. I just prayed, and I just asked for the healing, and I asked my heart to clear out all unforgiveness. And, if I am to go into light, I will, but I believe I've been told I'm not. The next morning, I had no cough. I
Mm.
coughed till I thought I was going to have some kind of stroke because I was coughing so hard. I had no cough. I was trying to make myself cough. I'm like, this can't be possible. I've coughed for 3 days straight. How can it just stop? And then no fever. I had an appetite. I was like, okay, this is, I got the message. Okay. I'm going to be doing this more and more. And that's what they were saying. So where is your, I'm on no medications at this point in my life. It's very rare. When I go into the doctor, if I do go to a medical doctor, there's like, you're not on any medications. No, because I believe that we're a nature spirit, and I put natural things into my body. I don't put chemicals
Mm.
in my body. And so it's fascinating because then I got led to Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, and what are they saying about how viruses and how they. I wanted to get into the science of viruses and what could I do to build my immunity system myself.
Mm.
That's part of your healing power, is taking responsibility for yourself. That's probably the greatest healing power you can have.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for these stories about, how we discover more capacities that, we haven't really been, we haven't discovered, or we haven't been using at all in the past. And, because of certain experiences or situations like this one, like COVID-19 or the pandemic, we are pushed to actually reconnect with those capacities, right?
Yes, absolutely. And this is a time, I'm getting chills. This is a time of expanded awareness and tapping into the higher consciousness, because we actually have fifth dimensional energies available to us right here on Earth now. The Earth is shifting, the magnetics are shifting, higher frequencies are here. And so it's pretty exciting that we can actually work with the higher dimensional frequencies on a third dimensional matrix. So the
Yeah.
best is yet to come. It really is,
Yeah.
because we're coming back into our own power, and we're creating the life experience. Like you said, people are starting to garden now. They're starting to bring in fresh fruits and food for them, instead of manufactured in plants or cleansed in plants. And people are getting back to it.
Yeah.
And that's exciting, because the more that you do that, the more that things shift on the earth plane.
That's exciting. I agree with you. And I think that the shift is really being facilitated, whether we are conscious of it or not, right?
Well, there's the mass consciousness. I mean, that's why we feel so bad. Like, that's why everybody couldn't get out of bed for the first month of the pandemic, because mass consciousness went into complete fear and shutdown.
Mm,
Fear. So we took that on. It's energy. We took on that fear and we were like, oh, and then we have to break out of that and say, what are we going to feed into mass consciousness? I don't want to feed any more fear. I don't want to feed any more depression. I wanted to feed more light, more love, higher vibration frequencies so that we could start shifting the mass consciousness, because every thought, every action, everything we do has energy, and we're feeding that in to the mass consciousness. So I just made a commitment that I'm not listening to the news. I'm not going to take on fear things. I'm going to be aware and I'm going to be smart about what's happening, informed about what's happening, but not fear based,
mm.
because I'm going to raise the vibration and feed that into mass consciousness so we can all change and create this beautiful new, what I call the new humanity of Earth.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this one, Lisa. And
You are so welcome.
as we close, I'd like you to share about the inner leader movement. I know that you
Oh,
briefly
yeah.
mentioned it. Yeah, you briefly mentioned it earlier, but we did not get the chance to talk about it. And all these things of alignment and connection, reconnecting with the essence. I know that you help people with that through the inner leader movement. And so maybe you can share more about what you
Yeah.
do.
Yes, thank you, Wayne, for the opportunity, because that's what I've done. I just kind of alchemized everything in my toolbox. So I've had 35 years in corporate, and I was trained in every leadership program, personality program, all of that. I have all those tools. And then what I did with the inner leader movement, actually, I tapped into my guides and said, okay, what am I doing next? I really don't want to go back into corporate full time, but I will work with corporate. And that they said, well, you need to get people aligned. You need to get people back in alignment with their source self. So how do you do that? Well, you get them connected to their higher dimensional resources. You get them connected to their heart's intuitive intelligence through heart math tools and techniques. They understand how their mind is hardwired through personality assessments that I have in my toolbox.
Mm,
So then get them connected within, and then bring them forward, and then have them make the change, have them discover, not me, have them discover the changes that they need to make in their life to move forward with this beautiful alignment and this circuitry. They call it a circuitry of
mm,
above, within, and earth below. So I'm a little bit of because I have the spirituality gifts, and then I have the corporate living in this earth, working for a living experience. And so I've just combined the best of both of those worlds into the inner leader movement, because inner leader is, I always say inner leader is the only leader the only leader at this time that you can trust.
mm.
And so why not develop the inner leader and move forward in knowing that you have the power to create your own life experiences through being connected to your amazing gifts and talent that you've been giving away to somewhere else instead of to yourself. So that's how the inner leader we work with everyone's in a different cycle, and so I can that it's highly customized. And the clients that I have been working with have had phenomenal results. I mean, someone that was in a 25-year abusive relationship marriage is now in an apartment on her own, thriving with a new business that she started. I worked with her for 2.5 years, steadily, or when we could, but she kept with it. And so it's another of my clients broke out of an abusive job situation and started her own business. So the alignment is, what am I here? What is it that I'm here really to do?
Mm.
on this precious time I have left. And that's what the inner leader movement does. Helps people get connected with not their purpose, their source self, because I don't really feel we have a purpose here except bringing forth our greatest gifts, to
Mm.
be of service, to create the experiences in love, in light, in joy. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so excited for people to get connected with you. Can you share how they can reach you? I will also include it in the podcast notes.
Oh, sure. Yes. So this Lisa Clayton, there's an A in between Lisa Clayton, and there's a reason. There's a lot of Lisa Claytons out in the world.
Uh
So
huh.
Lisa A. Clayton, it's all one word, .com. And you can go onto my website, and I offer free consultations so we can just talk about where you are in your life, and then you can see my calendar, which shows the events. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, so you can find all my profiles there. But the website is the best resource because you can go on and get connected, sign up for a newsletter, and I'm having a Patreon page soon, so there's a lot of new things coming. So yeah, that's the best way. I would love to work with anyone that is in this. You're getting those nudges. You're getting those pinches, and you're like, what do I do now? How do I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this time together. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your time, Lisa.
Oh, thank you, Wang. Much love to you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you find this valuable, don't forget to hit subscribe or follow. And if you'd like to know more about me and my work, you can check out seedsoftransformation.ph.